Hey there! Welcome to our channel, and thanks for watching. The title of today's video is Necessary Accuracy, and we're going to be talking all about accuracy and precision. So what do we mean by necessary accuracy? Well, let's start with this. I think every shooter can agree that accuracy means hitting the target. Now, the variation or the difference from one shooter to another comes in when they start to define the size of that target that they're trying to hit. To put it another way, what's the objective for that shooter? You see, across the shooting community, there's just a bunch of different people out there. Some folks are the competitive shooters, and they really want to push the envelope to get as precise a small group as possible, where every shot is essentially landing in the same place relative to the previous shot. And those competitive shooters need accuracy as well. Accuracy really being defined as the position or the location of those shots relative to the bullseye, that exact target. That's where the competitive shooter gets his highest scores, by having a lot of shots in the 10 ring, and most of those shots, or ideally all of those shots, right there in the X in the bullseye itself. But that's not me. I'm not a competitive shooter. Well, you could say that I compete with myself, and I compete to improve the loads that I'm crafting when I do my reloading. You know, when I started reloading, I was a teenager when I first started reloading, and I couldn't afford a lot of factor ammo, and I saw that by reloading I could greatly reduce the cost of the ammo I was shooting, and if I was careful with it, I figured I could also improve the accuracy. And all of this was being done in preparation for hunting. And in the mind of the hunter, what we want to do is to kill that animal as quickly and cleanly as possible. So we have to place that shot accurately in what we call the vital zone of that animal. Now, on a white-tailed deer, mule deer, elk-sized target, you're talking about anywhere from 16 to 24 inches or more in some cases on some big game animals. So now that X, that bullseye, becomes quite a bit bigger. And for the most part, we can hit that vital zone and achieve what we're looking for. That is, we're going to take that game. We're going to get that game and get some meat into the house and maybe a trophy animal as well. As many of you know who've been watching my channel for a while, I served in the military, served several years in the Army. And in the Army and the military, tactical applications, there's an entirely different definition of accuracy. And that is simply a hit somewhere on the target. There really is no bullseye or a 10 ring, but just hit that target. It may not be a killing shot, but it doesn't matter. It still satisfies that objective. And in that sense, we talk not about minute of angle, but we kind of jokingly talk about minute of man. And, you know, the AR-15, the AK, these sort of guns are kind of made for torso-sized targets out at distances, 300 yards or thereabouts. Now, for the hunter, or I guess any shooter for that matter, we want to know what our gun is capable of achieving. And, it's kind of this holy grail of sub-MOA accuracy. Well, to brand a rifle sub-MOA, there's a couple of caveats there. First of all, we have to find the correct bullet that rifle likes. And believe it or not, some guns will shoot very, very well with one type of bullet. You change that bullet design, or you change the weight of that bullet, the rifle kind of falls apart. As a demonstration of this, my 7mm Rem Mag Browning BBR rifle can shoot fantastically small groups. It kind of doesn't care what type of 160 grain bullet it's firing. It just does a very, very nice job with the 160 grain. I go much lighter than that to a 140, go heavier than that, 170, 175s, and the accuracy really falls off in both cases. Now, as a hunter, I really like the Barnes bullets. And the bullet that I'm firing now for my 7mm mag is the Barnes MRX bullet. And with that bullet, that gun is sub-MOA easily. My 338 Win Mag that I set up for elk, I'm shooting 225 grain bullets in that thing. And that's a very interesting story also. This is a Ruger Model 77 bolt-action rifle. And while it digests the 250 and even the 200 grain bullets nicely, I wanted the 225 because it gives me kind of that combination of a heavier bullet for the larger game like elk, and yet it gives me a little bit more velocity than I would with the 250, and it does fine with all of those. But I'll tell you something regarding reloading. When I went to my 416 Rigby 400 grain bullets, now that was a very challenging reloading process because what I needed to do is I needed to take that rifle in preparation for African hunting, and I wanted to craft a load that shot at the same point of impact with both a 400 grain solid bullet and a 400 grain tipped or expanding bullet. Now I tried the Swift, and I tried Barnes, and I tried bullet after bullet after bullet. And what worked out for me is the Barnes solid and the Barnes tipped triple shock. And believe it or not, that gun also shot sub-MOA at 100 yards. Now earlier I said that accuracy always carries some caveats. The first caveat is simply how you define accuracy. Is it a hit, a kill? Is it minute of angle or minute of man? Of course, one of the most common ways of measuring accuracy is minute of angle. But even this carries along some caveats. First of all, are we talking about a 3-shot group, a 5-shot group, 7-shot group, 10-shot group? Was that specific group fired just once on a lucky event? Or is that expression of accuracy a repeatable event? It was a 5-shot group last month, another 5-shot group this month, another 5-shot group next month, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, how are we measuring that group? It's very easy, very standard to measure extreme spread. And extreme spread's pretty good. It's a very handy, quick way of doing things. I do that all the time myself. But there are other ways of measuring those 3 or 5 or 7 or 10-shot groups. One is called circular error probable. And this expresses the accuracy of a given round as 95% of your hits will be within a certain circular size. You can also use the distance or mean distance of each shot from the centroid of the group's location. Imagine, if you will, that you have a 4-shot group. I know a 4-shot group is kind of an oddball, but it works very good for this analogy. Well, if this is the 4-shot group, the centroid of that 4-shot group would be, right about there. The distance then of that centroid to each shot is measured, and the mean distance is then calculated or used as that expression of accuracy. As you can see, that sort of approach is far more time-consuming than simply measuring extreme spread. And of course, any discussion of accuracy wouldn't be complete without talking about the inherent accuracy of a rifle. And what I mean by that is, what is that rifle capable of? Well, inherent accuracy begins and it's driven really as a function of the quality of that barrel. That's number one. Without a good barrel, you're probably not going to be ever satisfied with the accuracy of a given rifle. Second to the barrel is, of course, the chamber. Now, if that chamber is cut perfectly concentric with the midline or center line of the bore, that's kudos. That's great. Now, apart from a good barrel, the rest of the accuracy equation boils down to how we extract that accuracy from, let's say, an inherently accurate rifle. What I mean by that is the trigger, the person behind the trigger, and then, of course, the quality of the ammo, and, finding the type of bullet or the correct weight of bullet that barrel likes, as we call it, that it simply shoots well. So then we have this growing interest in long-range shooting and even long-range hunting. Now, for me, I have to feel comfortable and confident shooting a certain size target at a certain range before I'm ever going to take that shot during a hunting situation. What I mean is, let's say that we're talking about hunting an animal with a 16-inch vital zone. Kind of a pizza-sized target. Well, can I confidently hit that thing at 100 yards from the kneeling position, maybe from offhand? If I can't, then what I need to do is I need to get closer to that target before I'm going to take a shot. But if I can, then the next question is, can I do that at 200 yards, 250 yards, those sorts of things. And with most of my hunting rifles, the 7mm mag, let's say for instance, I can shoot very comfortably, very confidently out to 250 yards. And I normally do this from the kneeling position. If you've hunted much, you can't get into the prone very often. Number one, it's a time thing. And number two, there's probably going to be grasses or brush or something like that obscuring your target when you get down that low in a prone position. And before I forget, for hunting situations, just because you can hit that target confidently, comfortably, out to 300 yards and 400 yards, the next question is, are you using a caliber that can then kill that target, kill that game animal cleanly at that same range? It's one thing to punch a hole through paper. It's another thing to hit a gong with that bullet. But it's yet a completely different thing to kill an animal the size of a deer or an elk at that range. That bullet has got to have the velocity to build that energy, and it's got to have that terminal performance to kill that animal cleanly at that long distances. For me, 250 yards is about it, and that takes care of it. Now, a lot of you have been watching my series on the Ruger Precision Rifle. I really like that rifle. It's turned out very, very nicely for me. The 308 Winchester, and for those of you watching this series, you might recall that I won that at a Friends of the NRA banquet. So I didn't purposefully purchase that for any individual thing, but I've started using it kind of as a target rifle. Not competitive shooting, but as a target rifle. And now that my load is worked up, I'm going to get off the bench and I'm going to be shooting this gun from the prone position out at the shooting range at various different distances. The local range, I can go to 350, 375 yards. There's other ranges in the area that go all the way out to 1,000 yards. I'm going to try that out, that rifle at those long ranges. I've been doing quite a bit of long range shooting with other guns over the years, and it's very challenging. You put a small target, milk jug, let's say, out at 700 yards, 800 yards, whatever, you try to hit that. It's really not as hard as you think. And it's quite the sensation when you do hit that thing at that long distance. But you're not worried about terminal performance. All you're worrying about is hitting that target. That's it. Might be a steel plate, a steel gong. It might be a bullseye type of target. You want to see how small of a group this rifle achieves at such long distances. So let's keep having fun out there and stay tuned. We've got some very neat videos coming up in the future. Thanks for watching.